could act with a body to be set up by Congress. And you see how that system vindicates a particular vision of the separation of powers in multiple branches. For the Vice President to act with the Cabinet, it would require a real consensus within the executive branch. And something like a consensus evolving there, that there's a problem. And obviously, those are all people who are named in some sense by the President of the United States. The allowance of another body to be appointed by Congress gives the legislative branch the opportunity to be involved in the process as well, and to say that there is a separate legislative interest here. So let me just close with this thought and try to recontextualize it in terms of American constitutional democracy generally and what the role of the President of the United States is. Okay? So we're the first nation on earth conceived in insurgency and revolution against monarchy, right? Against the idea that all power belongs to a king, and the king derives his power from God, essentially, and then everybody else is just subjects. And we rebelled against that. Our revolution, our declaration, which talked about government resting on the consent of the governed, and our Constitution, which puts Article 1 in the Congress first, are all based on the idea that here the people govern. And Congress are the representatives of the people. And the lawmaking power is vested exclusively in Congress. What is the role of the President? The role of the President is to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. That's the role of the President, to implement the will of the Congress. Now, we got 535 members of Congress, and we don't have a 25th Amendment relating to members of Congress, because if one member of Congress goes awry and becomes physically or mentally quasi-disabled or unable, or their fitness is in question, it's not that big a deal. We've got 535 members of Congress, but we got one president in our system who is delegated the powers and the duties to faithfully execute the laws, all the laws, including, for example, the Affordable Care Act, okay, which is the way we're treating people who have physical and mental illnesses across the country. The President's got the authority and the power and the duty to implement the Affordable Care Act, and not to undermine it and not to sabotage it. And that's true of all of the laws that we pass. Now, if we have a president who is unable, for whatever reason, to faithfully execute the laws and to implement the laws and to defend and uphold the Constitution against all enemies, domestic and foreign, okay, that's a serious constitutional problem. And it wasn't enough in our Constitution to say if there are high crimes and misdemeanors, a president can be removed. Our Constitution said as recently as 50 years ago, when this was added to the text, that the president must be able at all times to discharge the powers and duties of office successfully. So this is a question of governance of, by, and for the people. Democracy is always an unfinished project, and we're trying to make it work. And the way we're trying to make it work here is simply to implement the meaning of the 25th Amendment by setting up a body for Congress to be active in its defense of constitutional values and our government. So I'm proud that we now have 31 sponsors. We get calls every day about HR 1987. We think we are expanding support. It is certainly not a question of a partisan nature, and we hope it's not viewed in that way. We hope that everybody can get behind this. We can set the body up and take the question seriously for all time. The name of this president is not mentioned in this legislation or any others. It's about setting up the body that is explicitly contemplated by the 25th Amendment to the Constitution. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for all of the work that you're doing, and but thank you for teaching me about the 25th Amendment, since I'm supposed to know about it. So is our movie ready to roll? Okay, so the next stage in our program, thank you very much.